Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project. Episode 152, 152 hours of me letting you look over my shoulder, share my screen as I write a script, which I am doing in order to fill an underserved section of the screenwriting education business. A lot of teachers can show you how to make a great script. They can show you what Hollywood wants, but they don't spend a lot of time showing you the process, the step-by-step, scene-by-scene, line-by-line, page-by-page thing that you have to go through to get that great script. And without that actual existence, script can't be great. So I am showing you how I learned to do it, self-taught in a 25-year career writing for TV and movies here in Los Angeles, California. It's not the only way to do it. It's not the best way to do it. It's just a way that I think is practical, that I'm sharing in case it's helpful to you. I'm going to walk you through it. When you're looking at the blank page, if something that I showed you to do is something that you can try and feels good, great. If not, you don't have to do it. It does not matter. Everyone has to find their own way of doing this. I'm just trying to break down some of the practical stuff that I had to learn. Hello, Marital Toso. Anyway, that's it. That's what we're doing. You don't have to watch all of them. It's not like this is 152 chapters of a book that you need to read the whole thing of. Pop in, watch a little, try and get some of it. If it's helpful, great. If it's not, go back to doing what you do and make that work for you. Hello, Jean. Welcome. Today, I am going to start going through the outline, preparing to do my next draft, because I have read through the script. I have cut the script down by almost 20 pages. Actually, I think I did cut it down by 20 pages. It is still too long, but I read through it a couple of times and I have found a lot of stuff I need to work on. So I just want to go through and make the outline the place where I've sort of worked that out for myself. I believe that the outline is a good place to make sort of a things to do list. When you have this big draft and it's full of 50, 60 scenes, by breaking it down scene by scene, which is what the outline is, an outline is just a list of scenes with details in it. And I use that as a place to work, to think things out, to solve problems. And now I'm going to go through it because a couple weeks ago, I wrote down everything I could think of that I had to do. And now I want to just go through that and focus it. Possibly actually start looking at some scenes to rewrite. So let us get on that. Let's talk about this. Well, first of all, I made this scene list yesterday. What I did was I went through the outline and I took out everything except the name of each scene, the name, the summary, the what's this scene about. And I went through that this afternoon and I just sort of cleaned it up a little because like some of these where it was sort of, I had it as two scenes, but it's really one scene with two parts. So I made them into one, trying to really get it short and simple. In doing that, I was also sort of reminding myself, this is what this scene is about, because that's the most part. You can't decide what people say or do in a scene if you don't know what the scene is about. What is it trying to accomplish? What single thing is most important for that scene to give the audience? Hello, this is Gitchy. So the scene list, it's partly just a way of like getting it into my brain, but it's also really cool because I can use it literally as a checklist. I can say, okay, now this scene, and I can cross them off, which I actually do. When I'm writing my own scripts, I will very often, this is kind of large type because I wanted you to be able to see it here on the screen. But usually what I do is I shrink it down till it all fits on one page. And then as I'm writing it, I put that up in front of my desk and I cross off all the scenes so I can say, oh, look, I now have it half crossed off or 3/4 crossed off. Ha! N, you made it. You figured out what time it is. Good for you. Glad to see you here. So let's open up this outline. Haven't looked at it in a while. First thing I'm going to do is say, yes, this is wonderful advice, but I've got it. Choose final names, right? That's fair. Okay. So now I'm just going to go through this because this outline currently is 18 pages long. And it could be that some of that stuff I don't need. And I want to try and start with the last victim. Oops. Okay. Start with the last poisoning. So to emphasize, the case is cold. That's the important thing. There you go. Hello, Division 5. How are ya? N made it. Yes. Okay. So what I'm doing right now is I am clarifying, simplifying the outline for myself, so that I don't get lost when it's so easy to get lost, and then you get stuck if you have too many words, too much going on. So I am now going through and just making sure that this is clean. So I can take out keep simple because I've got simplify. Now, this is interesting. Smoking is actually kind of an interesting thing because smoking has become, for very valid socially conscious reasons, something that will actually get you an R rating. like if there's a rating system, smoking is among the things that they really are trying to discourage portraying. And so you have to always think when you put things like smoking or the F word or nudity or violence, although that is shockingly not important to most of the rating systems. Anyway, the point is when you put those things in, you are skewing your audience, and you have to decide, is this important? If it's important to have somebody cursing or smoking or doing drugs, then do it. But do be aware that it changes the place that the thing will be in. Hey, quirky black boy, nice to see you. I'm really glad that you came. It is great. Hi, Matthew. Oop. Hi, Matthew. Clicked the wrong thing there. Meanwhile, film noir. Exactly. Okay. How can you distinguish bad writing versus bad writing just from the finished film? That's an interesting question. Let's talk about that. Hold on. Distinguish bad writing. Okay. This is a fascinating question. I'm gonna just grab that. Okay. If you're watching a movie, how can you tell whose fault the bad parts are? Very good question. You can't. I mean, there are certain things you can tell. First of all, let's get something really straight though. Bad, relative term, subjective concept. So therefore, I just want to alert you that when you say this is bad, it means to you. It's not like it's universally bad. Famously, there are people who love some things that are bad. People, Ed Wood's whole career was revived because people liked his bad, and then, in many conventional ways, it's bad. However, it's also great because of that. For some people, bad focus means bad film, and for other people, it's like, oh, that's really, it's authentic. So. Definitely one thing that you can do is compare, as Matthew says, if you can find a copy of the script, and that's an actual copy of the script, not a transcript, you can compare it and see if they changed it, which does happen sometimes. Sometimes bad writing is because there was stuff in the script and they just cut it out. And so therefore it's incomprehensible, or they rearranged it. However, hello, Natasha. However, the truth is, most of the time you can, like, for instance, what part of the writing do you think is bad? For instance, the dialogue, if the way that people are speaking, the actual shape of the sentences and the lines and what they're saying, you can judge that because that's there. Now, as somebody who has had their dialogue rewritten on the set when I wasn't there, I can tell you it's not often not what they wrote. There are certain projects of mine which are out there now where there are large portions of the script that it's like, I didn't write that. I don't know who did, honestly. Now and then I know who did, and it was a butting of heads where someone said, I want to add a speech. And I'm like, oh, I hate that speech, but I could not stop them. They had more power than me. So you often do not know. Furthermore, there are very often uncredited writers on a finished project. So therefore, for instance, the movie Fracture that I wrote, which is credited to Dan Pine, who wrote the original script, and me, but there were 4 other writers who worked on that, which I will talk about sometime when I go through that project. I've talked about it before in podcasts and things. But the answer is, I did not come up with much of that story. So Dan Pine deserves that credit. He gets it. You can't tell who wrote what on a script. However, you can say, I don't like the way they're talking. I think their dialogue is clunky. Well, that's bad writing. There's not that much you can do about it. Sometimes the bad writing is covered by great acting and directing. Sometimes great writing is messed up by inferior writing and directing. I have a friend who wrote a film noir, speaking of N, and you can see the script is better than the performances and the directing. It's like, whoa, like they're saying things that I understand as good, but they're playing another thing. They're not playing the scene. They're not playing the meaning of it. It's just bad. Can't do it. A bad movie is not always the director's fault. It can be, but it can often be the producer came in and recut it. It can often be that the director, the director had often scripts are not that good, truly. You can't tell. The answer is light and forms. You can't completely tell. Also, once again, it's your opinion. For example, I can think of movies where I actually like the script a lot. And there's a movie called Jennifer 8, which it's just an old thriller from the 90s, I think early 2000s. Andy Garcia, Uma Thurman. It's written and directed by a guy named Bruce Roberts, who's a good writer. However, it doesn't quite work in many ways, but beautifully shot, nicely directed, and the writer directed it. Now, the writer has said that he felt, and this is an interesting idea, Andy Garcia is actually too attractive for the role. The guy is supposed to be more of a hopeless loser, and Andy Garcia plays the part as a man who's injured, wounded emotionally, and he's great. Andy Garcia is a great actor, but he isn't quite right for the part. It's still a really fun movie. I really like it. I think it's really good. But there is this weird sense that it's not quite working as well as it could. And that's really interesting because the writer was the director. So the director wasn't antagonistic to the writer. It just didn't quite make it work. I don't know. The answer is you cannot know what made a movie the way it was entirely by seeing it. Now and then you'll get someone like Christopher Nolan, Steven Spielberg, where they pretty much are responsible. They have the final say. They have final cut. They have a lot of leeway on what they want to do. So if a movie is not appealing to you by one of those people, you can say, oh, I got to put that on you, Steve or Chris. For most other people, just like their careers, like we judge people's careers, like, oh, why did they do that? Most of the time, it's what they could do. They were offered that and not all the other things. They tried to get other parts. They tried to get other jobs, but they couldn't. So they take the ones that they can for the best reasons they can. And we're all sitting there thinking, why do they make such dumb choices? Now, people sometimes do steer their career right into the toilet. However, very often, they're just doing the best they can with the situation they've got in the reality of the business. So, there are definitely arcane variables. There are so many variables you can't imagine. For one thing, and director's cuts sometimes reveal this. For instance, Cameron Crowe made a movie called Almost Famous. The movie's okay. It's a good movie. However, if you get a chance, there is on DVD, he put out a version, the director's cut, which is called Untitled, which includes like 40 minutes more stuff. And that's great. It's knockout better. Likewise, there's the Ridley Scott movie with actually it's interesting. It's the one with it's in the Crusades. And it's not once again not a bad movie. Put back in the 40 minutes, it's really good. So in those cases, the script was good. Oh, American Gangster. Watch the full cut, the director's cut, which also has, once again, like 45 minutes more scenes. It gives the story an entirely different shape and emotion. And that's a case where, yes, the script was better than the finished film. However, in terms of moment-to-moment writing of dialogue, you can kind of judge that based on like, wow, that's a clunky line. Wow, that scene is sort of, not making any sense. You can sometimes judge that. I don't know. Okay. Bad flick is as ambiguous as good flick. Yes, completely right. Yes, very good point. On Golden Pond either won the Oscar because it was good or shouldn't have won so bad. Exactly. No, you're done it. We don't worry about typos here. Clearly, have you seen me type? Okay. Yes, something's wrong with the person seeing it. You can, and that is the key. This is good light and forms. The thing you want to ask is you want to sort of break it down in your mind. If you are puzzling over why isn't this working for me, look at it. Think, okay, what is working and what isn't? Think about because the directing is partly the visual scheme of it. Although you'd be surprised sometimes some directors just aren't that good visually. They're not. They could be good with actors. They could be good with budget and schedule, and that's why they're hired. But think about imagine if somebody else was saying that line differently, would I like that line? Or is it the line itself? Is it the character, the way the character is being played, or is it what the character is doing and saying? These are all, I'll often watch something with other people and they will dislike something based on the performance. They'll say, oh, that person is so whiny, or oh, that person is too aggressive. And I'll think, oh, that's exactly the right tone to take for that. It's opinion. Hello, Pedro. Hello, Sarah. Kingdom of Heaven. Yes, thank you. I recommend highly the Kingdom of Heaven long version, the director's cut. Likewise, American Gangster, both Ridley Scott. This is actually interesting. This is a case where Ridley Scott had enough power for them to put the money into the releasing the long version. Oh, if you want to see a really interesting version of this, Payback, the Mel Gibson movie written by Brian Helgeland, was originally, I believe, directed by Brian Helgeland, and Mel Gibson took it over. Now, both versions are good, but they're radically different. And what's really interesting, and you got to give Mel Gibson credit for this, is Mel Gibson supported putting out a later DVD director's cut version of it, in which they even do a long behind the scenes thing where they talk about what was changed and why. And like Brian Helgeland talks about, he said, like, I had a visual scheme. It was very different, much less colorful. And they show the same scenes with the two different color corrections. So it's like, whoa, this is fascinating. And both sides take some responsibility for their inability to make the same movie. And both sides show some respect for the other person's version. It's well worth, if you can find payback in both versions, it's and especially with the behind the scenes, it's pretty cool. Okay, so yes. Oh, thank you, Anthony. Also, Kingdom of Heaven, you got it. Yes, you caught another screen shark. Hello, Larry. All right. The Snowman, yes. Okay, I gotta say, yeah, that is definitely a one, and that one is, yeah, this is good. I haven't I watched it once, and to really think about what went wrong, I would say, I would have to watch it again. However, I gotta give Thomas Alfredson, who may be a great director, but I gotta give him some of the blame, because although a lot of this could be recutting, they often take things away from directors in the editing room and recut it, and it's not his choice, and producers and studio executives get involved, and so I can't say, but what I can say is, if I recall The Snowman, it was an example where, first of all, I don't think the script was great, but I remember thinking this script could have been made better. Like, there's ways to have made these scenes and these characters work better than they are. And I'm not sure. Very often, there's a lot of pressures on, people have far less control than we give them credit for, and that the media likes to tell, oh, the director makes all these decisions. A lot of times, the director is not getting full control. There may be reasons that they're being told that they have to do certain things certain ways. Yes. Okay. Once Upon a Time in America, very famous case. I kind of like the long version. The long version, it sort of falls apart at the end. But the whole point of that movie is the extraordinarily slow development. You got to go with it. And there's so much objectionable in the story of that movie in terms of just morality, and it's very uncomfortable, the treatment of women. There's just a lot of crap in there. However, as a unique work of art about of a gangster film that's like 4 hours long, in which it just takes forever to unfold certain things, is kind of interesting. I can't recommend it fully, but I guess the thing I would say is, while the long version may be too long, the short version doesn't fix that. The short just feels like, why am I watching this? Likewise, Heaven's Gate. Although there is, I can't believe I'm spending so much time on this. There is on Steven Soderbergh's website, which is called, hang on, Extension 765, I believe. Okay, there is this website called Extension 765. Extension 765 is Steven Soderbergh's website, in which he has some. Let me. Okay. Anyway, I think it's .com. I just Google Extension 765. Anyway, Steven Soderbergh, the magnificent director, he sells some really cool T-shirts. I wear some of them sometimes. They're referenced to very, very obscure movies and just beautifully made. He's got a bunch of stuff there. He sells his Polaroids and some other things that, like, when a cinematographer and a director are working on the set, especially in the old days, they would often take Polaroid shots of things as tests or just as records of what was happening. And he will, or just pictures he has taken on the set, and he will sell them for charity. He'll sell like a picture that he took on the set of the people making Ocean's 11. Anyway, there's a section where he just has like weird journal entries and experimental films that he has made, little silent movies that he's just shot with his home video camera and put to music. It's really something. I struggle. It's just wonderful. However, one of the things he did was he took Heaven's Gate, the famously too long Western, which is kind of an interesting movie, even though it is, once again, way too long and slow, and once again, very problematic about relationships between men and women. But Steven Soderbergh just recut it. And he said, I have no permission to do this. I have no legal right to do this, but I think there's a cool version of this if you just radically cut. It cuts out like an hour and a half. Anyway, it's pretty cool. Okay. Hello, Rachel. Yes, Payback is a fascinating experiment in so many ways. Yes, exactly. A movie that reaches for a weird tone. Some people love it, some people hate it. Saved. Yeah, there's so much. It is a fascinating subset, which now especially things often sneak out onto the internet, or they even release deliberately different cuts of things, and that is pretty cool. Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There are certain movies where there's just, this was a disaster from the beginning, that the script may not have gotten right. Honestly, most of the things I've been worked on, there was a very, like, on the set, I was pretty sure that the script was crap. And I don't mean that like, oh, I think it's crappy, right? I mean, like, it was messed with so many times by so many people that I was like, I can't believe this is going to work. And in fact, they did. Yes, it is. Yeah. Okay, cool. Hi, Kirby. I have never heard that, so I'm going to check it out. Snakehead, I think that's on my list of things to look at. Cool. Thank you for that. Got a shout out. Okay. So the answer, to get back to the original question, was, how can you tell when you watch a movie whose fault it is if it's bad? And the basic answer is, if you're really into it, first of all, find out. You'd be surprised. Sometimes you'll watch something, it'll be like, okay, something's seriously wrong here. I watched a movie called Runner, who are some pretty good writers involved. And I thought, this is weird because the script is bad. And these are good writers. So what happened? So I just did a quick Google search of interviews by the writers about this Runner. And very quickly I found that they had said in interviews, this was the worst experience of our life. We cannot believe how horrible it was what they did to our script, because there's just no character. It's just cut down to beat, get action. And by the way, I don't mean action. I mean like story action. Everything is just there's like little one line character bits. And these people are known. They did Rounders. Rounders is a very, very highly developed character story about gambling. Anyway, so when I saw Runner, I was like, this is just not making sense to me. So I did a little searching, and in fact, usually when something is made, you'd be surprised how many people will talk. And that's it's interesting, because like, if you are working in Hollywood, you know that you cannot badmouth people in interviews, because you won't get hired the next time, because they don't want you, if you don't agree with something, putting stuff out there in interviews. So most things that most people say in interviews, they're not the full truth. So when somebody does spill something negative, you're like, wow, that must be serious, because they really, really did say that. Okay. I have not met the screenwriter. I have never seen Battlefield Earth. I do not know. I know that it was a controversial project when it happened. very often, the screenwriter is not only the least powerful person involved in the making of a film, but very often fired and replaced by other writers who write parts of it. Everything I wrote, there's something that you could see. A lot of that, I was rewriting somebody else. Anyway, the point is, there is no question that however many people wrote Battlefield Earth, there were tons of meetings where people were giving opinions and then rewrites were being done. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to like Runner 2, but no. Good luck on the way. Yes. I am so, that is great. Back to class for me too. Yes, the outlining is really, I should get back to that. It can be fun. Let's have some fun here. Let's do this. Okay. So this line here is sort of my reminder of what the shape of this scene is. What the point is. Yeah, I know. That's okay. Thank you, Division 5. I am AMAing. All right. Okay. Now this stuff about defining George, you know what? It doesn't belong here. So I'm going to take that right out, but I'm not going to throw it away because it might be valuable. So I'm going to put it into the overview. Let's find George. Character. Okay. Characters. Madeline and Norman. Dundosky, McLean. Norman again. Oops. Madeline. Xena. This is right. This is the right order. George. Here we go. See, I already did this. That shows you. I knew. It's already here. Okay. Huh. You know? Okay. Okay. Hello, Wolf. Glad you made it. Good to know you're doing okay. Okay enough to watch things. Yeah, no, I've heard that Battlefield Earth is really bad. Yeah. Okay. This is really not that important. Just meet the chemistry, said Keller on the podcast. That's all we really need to know. Okay, this is better. See, now I've got this whole scene down to just a few things I need to accomplish. Okay. This is really about this. There we go. Look at that. No. Oh, that's just not true anymore. See, that's the thing. Sometimes when you're working, you make progress on something, and then when you go back to the outline, you're like, well, this is old. This doesn't. Keep it up to date. Try and keep it alive. The outline should be a living thing that constantly changes. It's a workplace. A workspace, so to speak. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No. Yeah. Actually, none. This is like, yeah. Yeah. This is fine. Okay. point of this scene is that she is content in her small life. Yes. You know, I actually already have this settled, so let's move along. All right. This is really later. Okay. There we go. I like to just make things really clean and short. Right. I'm trying to decide whether I want to go through this whole outline now or actually just get into the script and do it scene by scene, scene, outline, scene, outline. I think I might just do that so that you guys don't just watch me outlining forever. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so first scene. I'm just going to read through this scene and look for, well, for one thing, okay. For one thing, that is A-flars. So here's the thing. This scene is 5 pages long, 5 pages of dialogue, and it's not organized. Oh, interesting. It's only 4 pages. That's good. Not a high end. Then I'm going to make all of this one thing. All right. Yes, there is a standard. Very few pages, very few scripts in regular Hollywood movies are more than 3 or 4 pages. TV shows or shows can be slightly different. Depends. 'Cause some of them are very dialogue heavy, and they could run 5 or 6. But generally, most scenes are less than 3 pages, 3 or 4 pages. You know, a really good thing to do is just look at the things you like, because they're different. But it depends. The rules have also changed for a long time because they were working. The main power was features until the past 10 years. The rules for screenwriting were set for features, and they had to move really fast. I mean, when you're writing a feature, you've got an awful lot of story to cover very, very quickly. So they didn't like long scenes. That has changed because streaming has so much more room. But even then, if you look at something like Better Call Saul, which it takes its time, but even then, most of the scenes are not actually that long themselves. They just are taking very small steps. So I would say keep an eye on it. The main thing to do would be to try and look at scripts for things you like, if you can get hold of them, and they are often out there on the internet, and actually check how long are their scenes. Okay. Unless you're Quentin Tarantino, yes, obviously there are people who have managed to find ways to to make their own rules. I would say the way that you get to do that is by having an enormous financial hit. When you have an enormous financial hit, you'd be surprised what they let you do. And by the way, not bad. I'm just saying, most of us do not have the power. It's this sort of a theme. We were talking about this earlier. Most people do not have the power to bend the shape of the industry's expectations. You are expected to work within the industry's expectations, even though the audience often will go wild for something that bends those. It's a matter of power. All right, so here's the thing. Either I am going to have to change this to the like I said, well, definitely break the rules after you know the rules. That's for sure. However, even then, no one will, I mean, you don't have you can break the rules in your script. Whether or not someone will make that script, it can get harder when you break the rules, although things are changing. The rules-based cohesion of the industry has broken up in the past 5 years, especially because of streaming. And so while a lot of people in the business will have a lot of rules in their head, the truth is, if you look at the work that's going out there, it is much broader, and there are more possibilities than there have been in a long time, possibly since the very beginning, since silent days. Anyway, so I would say, yeah, definitely know the rules. Definitely be able to play by the rules. Why not? I mean, why would you not develop your skills in several directions? Because this is a job-based thing to do. If you're trying to break into the business, if you are trying to push your vision and you have a very strong, specific vision, and you are willing to not get produced because of it, do it. Either one. Quentin Tarantino. Yeah, I mean, he's leaning into genre. He's also got a specific style. It's his personal style, literally personal in the sense that he, firstly, he's just doing what he thinks is cool, but also it's kind of how he talks. Anyway, QT, Quentin Tarantino, is who he's talking about, and the question of whether he's leaning into genre, he definitely does choose a genre and lean into it. However, there's no question that he has a specific style which transcends the particular genre of any piece, and is always his, despite whatever piece, whether it's a Western or a war movie. All right. I'm reading through this in case you are wondering what is going on here. This we definitely boom. Okay. So in my notes in the outline, I had said to myself, I should make this the last victim. But I'm not sure that that's true, because what the point about that was to get to the point that I make clear that the case is cold, that this person stopped serial killing back in the 1980s. Cut all this. Cut all this. So yeah, I'm beginning to think maybe this is not so terrible to leave it as the first victim. All right. What I'm thinking about is this section here where we describe the actual symptoms of the poisoning, which is really important because we are then going to see him suffer from these things. And that's so what I was thinking was, do I want to actually have it playing, like he's listening to a playback of his earlier recording and it happens while he's describing it? I actually think that's sort of too comical. It's kind of like so ironic that I think it would actually take away the shock value that I want. So, because what I was thinking was, the basic question is, where does this stuff go? Everything else breaks down. This is all about the case, and then it's about his personal connection to it, and then it's about the evidence. So what I'm trying to figure out is which section of this speech will actually happen. What I've decided is it should happen while he is getting poisoned. That he's going to go out, grab a snack, come back, and be dying while the recording is running. And so the question is, what are we listening to as he's dying? In some ways, the thing about it is whatever we're listening to is going to be secondary, because we're going to be shocked at what we're witnessing, and we're not going to be paying that much attention to what we're listening to. So in some ways, we start with this. Yeah, I'm thinking that we take this and move it. There we go. This goes down here. Okay, that's interesting. Matthew, yes, I agree. The only real rules are the formatting. Everything else is, there are many, many ways to do things. There are certainly rules for certain parts of the business or certain companies. However, to say there's an absolute universal rule of screenwriting, I don't buy it. All right. Yeah, see, this is just a good start. To start with this speech, which is just, this is very, like, grabs you up, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. More like guidelines, yes. Well, this is interesting. There we go. All right, we're starting to organize this scene better. This will probably get slightly shorter. All right. Okay. I think I'm going to start to wind down. It was great to talk to you guys about movies and what we can and can't tell about them from them. And I look forward to doing more of this writing thing tomorrow. I hope you all have a good, safe time and that you go write something.